Scott here. We're back with Jamar from Reyes Restoration, and today we're going to be talking about water damage and particularly insurance and water damage. So, Jamar, how does that work? How does insurance work with water damage, and what should homeowners know before they actually file a claim?
Um, that's a bit of a tricky question there. So what they should know, uh, hmm, I'm not sure on what they should know, other than which number to call, who their insurance
Hmm.
company is. Um, that and also to let them know that they want to use Reyes Restoration for their mitigation. But other than that, yeah.
Okay. Um, I guess one of the things is should they consult their policy first to work out whether it's even covered and if it's even worth getting in touch with their company?
So if they know how to properly read their policy, which unfortunately I'm not saying that the homeowners don't know how to read their policy, but they don't. But it would
Mm.
be a good idea that when you're getting these policies, to read it in depth to already know what is covered and what is not covered.
Mm. Because are there instances where you go to a job and the homeowner thinks they're covered by their insurance and they're not, and then it kind of gets a bit messy?
Yes, they can.
Yeah. Um, okay, so what sort of things typically are and aren't covered by homeowners insurance? I know it's going to vary from company to company.
Yes, so for the most part, everything within the envelope is covered, meaning broken pipe, a backup, and even sump pump. Now, the
Hmm.
backups and the sump pumps normally have caps on them. The average cap that we see is about a $5,000 cap. Now, that is normally not enough, especially on a sump pump, for
Hmm.
coverage. So, my recommendation is to check your policy and increase those caps as high as possible.
Hmm. And does that increase the amount that the homeowner is going to have to pay for their insurance as well?
Will increase it. Now, how much? I'm not an insurance agent, so
Yeah,
that part I cannot answer.
yeah, that's fine. What sort of things aren't usually covered?
Seepage, meaning from the foundation, they normally don't cover that.
Hmm.
Um, if it's a waistline and it's outside in the yard that actually caused it, they typically do not cover that, unless, of course, you have a rider policy, which most people don't. There's certain instances where they should probably check their policy, and if it's not on there now, you may want to add it, especially if you have large trees that's in the front of your home, because it's normally where your waistline is. There's a
Hmm.
large tree in the front, especially like close to the center of it. You may want to look into your policy and add those riders for waistline replacements.
Why is that? What can a tree do to the waistline?
The tree roots, they can crack the waistlines. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
those roots, they don't have any respect for your waistlines. They're just going to grow when they want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But we see that a lot, especially
Okay.
in Baltimore City in particular.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of things about the insurance climate in the States right now. What situations do you see where claims are getting denied and kind of why are they getting denied?
Honestly, it's very rare we see any that are getting denied. Most of ours are covered claims.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like the sump pumps, those typically have the caps on them. So there's normally not enough money for the homeowner to put back everything. It
Mm-hmm.
may or may not be enough for the mitigation part, but we do everything we possibly can to help the policyholder as much as possible to get as close to completion as we possibly can.
Yeah, and I know you really fight that corner as well.
Yes, sir.
So what's I'm trying to think how to phrase this. It, if a homeowner's got a water damage, well, they've noticed they've got water damage, and they're trying to work out is it worth contacting my insurance company or not? Do they need to contact the insurance company before they contact you?
Um, Yes and no. It's more of a preference thing. If
Okay.
they're unsure on whether or not they should file a claim, they can call us for an inspection. We'll come out and
Mm.
inspect it, and we can give a rough estimate on what we think it may be, but we also make sure that they have the understanding of, once we start any demolition, we may find more damage, which may increase the price if we have to exceed what we expect it to do.
Hmm.
And at that point, depending on their deductible, they can make a determination on if they'd like to pay out of pocket or if they'd like to file their insurance claim.
Hmm. And how can they work out whether it's worth it or not? Obviously, I know you'll advise them, but what sort of things are they considering?
Um, More or less price.
Hmm.
Uh, if somebody has a $2,500 deductible, but the job's only going to be, let's say, $3,000 based off of our inspection,
Hmm.
you don't want to necessarily file a claim, in my personal opinion,
Hmm.
because just for an extra $500, I think it's probably best to pay out of pocket
Hmm.
because filing claims, it can possibly increase your policy based off the amount of claims that you file.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that a knock-on effect from filing a claim, and are there any other knock-on effects after you've filed that you maybe aren't aware of?
Um, I'm not sure. I'll tell you, another misconception is just because someone files a claim, they assume that it's going to increase their policy. That's not always
Mm,
true. And if
okay.
they're filing multiple claims every few years, you're probably risking getting dropped from the insurance company.
Hmm.
But even if they wanted to file the claim knowing they had a high deductible and then calling us and allowing us to do an assessment, we can still give a rough estimate. And then they could always go back and cancel that claim in which they filed and pay out of pocket if they chose to.
Hmm. Okay. So, how do you work with the adjuster? I mean, I guess first, is the adjuster working for your client, or are they working for the insurance company?
The adjusters, they're representatives of the insurance company.
Hmm. So, what's their role? Because a cynic would say their role is to drive the price down as much as possible. Is that your experience?
No.
Okay.
They want to make sure that they're working with contractors that are not price gouging and charging for things that they typically don't do.
Hmm.
And that's one of the problems in this industry is there's a lot of companies that will try to charge for things that are not necessarily needed,
Hmm.
or actually charging for things that they aren't actually doing. But one thing about us is we always do it the right way, and everything that we do, it's documented via photos so they can see that it's actually happened.
Hmm.
Um, but the adjuster just wants to make sure at the end of the day that they're paying for what really needs to happen, not just because a contractor has told the homeowner, "Oh, we can get you a whole new kitchen," even though just the wall is messed up and nothing else is messed up. They won't allow that.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, clear documentation is a big thing. How do you work with adjusters? Is it just about getting the clear documentation, or are there other things you do to make the process really smooth?
All depends on different adjusters. Some of them, they will meet us on site and we'll go
Hmm.
over the game plan together and get approvals from them like that.
Hmm.
Other ones will just tell us, hey, just do what you have to do, document it, send everything to me, and we'll go from there.
Hmm.
So it's all case by case.
Yeah, and I guess is that different insurance companies having different policies of how they want their adjusters to operate, or do the adjusters get free reign in how they want to do things?
No, they have policies. Different companies have different policies.
Okay.
And then it also depends on if they're assigning a desk adjuster. Obviously, a desk adjuster never comes to the site,
Hmm.
so they solely rely on us to be their eyes. And
Hmm.
so we do that by photo documentation. We also use something called DocuSketch, where we take 3D images of the rooms that are affected, to make it easier. It sort of kind of tells the story. For the
Hmm.
adjuster, it's almost as if they're standing there in the room and they can see everything that we can see.
Hmm. And when when a homeowner calls you out, should they have already started documenting the damage before you even get there?
I would say so, yes. Because the more documentation, the better.
Mm.
You never want to be under documented. So definitely photos, photos, photos. Anything that you have to prove that this is what happened or this is what you had that had gotten damaged, it's always best.
Hmm. And is there any, beyond taking as many photos as possible, is there any other advice you could give a homeowner to make sure they get the documentation right?
Um, if they save receipts,
Mm-hmm.
that can help for like I'll give you an example. I'm doing a job right now, and it's a very high-end house. The estimating software that we use, it's called Exactimate, which is what
Mm-hmm.
pretty much all the insurance companies require us to use, either that or Claims Connect. But Exactimate in particular on this job, we use the highest dollar amount allowed for the light fixtures.
Mm-hmm.
However, the light, it's not enough. And luckily, this is a fire job, but luckily the homeowner had just remodeled the entire house about a year, I believe he said, before the fire,
Mm-hmm.
and he has all the receipts. And it shows that those light fixtures were 3 times the amount that was allowed in Exactame.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy now because he has the receipts. We're submitting those to the insurance adjuster, and obviously they have to approve it because it's in the policy to give them of like kind and quality
Yeah.
of what he had.
Yeah.
So
And I guess that's the really important thing about keeping receipts for everything.
yeah. Now
um,
you may not want to keep the paper copies, but
mm,
you can scan them now, and you have OneDrives or Google Drives and stuff like that that you can use to save that information, and it'll make it 10 times easier if you actually save it in something like that.
yeah. And then you
Yep.
just make a habit of that every time you make an upgrade on your home, the information is just there if you
Yep.
need it. Um, yeah, absolutely. That's a great tip to end on. So thanks again for your time, Jamar. I'll speak again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.